Well, that's very ambitious painting time.
So, BattleTech box, beginner box.
So
there's 2 models in this that we are going to be painting today because we don't know much about BattleTech, do we?
No, gonna give it a red hot crack.
Yeah. So what colour scheme are you going for?
So I'm thinking that we're gonna do a bit of like a half and half sort of thing. Do like yellow on one side and then a blue on the other side. And I'm just gonna start with something a bit darker and then work up the highlights as I go.
Oh yeah.
It's my loose plan.
I'm going to go for a very desert camo scheme, I believe. I think that will be. But our plan is basically to paint these and then see if we can figure out how to play it.
Yeah.
Eventually.
This is the loose plan.
So we'll make them look really nice, and it's easy because there's only one model to paint.
Yeah, absolutely, it's easy. We're gonna go for something kind of like that, but more blue and yellow instead of blue and white.
So mine is the Vindicator. I'm not going to go for this, but I reckon I'll do a base coat similar to this in a brown.
Where does it say the name?
The Griffin.
Ah, the Griffin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
What size brush would be good to start with, do you think?
I do not know the size of the brushes off the top of my head, but I'll usually start with something like a bit wider, something like that. This is a shade This is a shade brush from GW, and it just like applies really easily, spreads out. So I'd probably recommend something like that to start with. Not that I'm an expert or anything.
Okay. Start off with a red leather maybe, and then move on to the tones.
That's maybe something that you can use for the highlights, like mixing them together.
Okay. And you really love the scaled colour.
Yeah.
So what is it about scaled colour that makes these a bit more preferable?
I've only really started using them recently, but they just like they apply really nicely. They come out the bottle really it's really easy. Like they're not too thick, they're not too thin. They're just
Are they expensive?
Very nice. They're actually like the same price as other brands from what I've seen. And yeah, just really easy to use. Very like soft tones. If you give it a good shake first,
Something I never do.
Do that.
The last time I tried to shake a bottle of paint, I blew up in the lounge and it went all over the curtain.
We've all been there. I'm gonna start with this Sahara yellow, I reckon. Ooh. Work up from there.
You do a lot of painting. How often are you painting every day?
I'm painting a lot at the moment, just for fun. Yeah, doing a Blood Bowl team at the moment. The Corn guys. I really like miniature painting, but I have like ambitions of playing the games that they're attached to, but I never seem to set aside the time to actually do it.
Too much painting.
Yeah, I do really like the painting stages especially.
Do you reckon I should apply a lot more water than paint? Just so I can see under...
Yeah, I like to wet them down a fair bit so it's so it's not like opaque and so that it applies really
I definitely do the
easily.
classic painting mistake of applying
Like
way too much
thick
paint
layers.
and then not seeing any of the undertones.
Yeah.
I do that a lot.
So we didn't really show you, I guess, beforehand, but all of these models, mine's got like a little streak of yellow now, but all these models were zenithal primed beforehand. So they were just sprayed all black and then sprayed from above from an artificial light source with white, and it just kind of gives you like a rough like kind of highlight and
I guess I should
follow.
I should just paint panel by panel, shouldn't I?
Yeah, that's probably how I would go. You can be, especially because it's the first layer, you can just slap it on a little bit as long as it's not in, super thick layers.
This is really good for me. I need a lesson in painting.
I never like to...
I get so frustrated when I was painting the Infinity figures.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Like I never like to talk like I'm an expert because I'm definitely not, but I like painting and I do it a lot, so like anything that I've learnt that I can pass on, I'll pass on. But
I'm surprised how much water I'm using compared to paint actually.
Yeah, like do you reckon that's just this range in particular, these paints, or?
I think it's just technique.
Yeah.
It's not something, I think this is a good beginner's lesson in in applying paint. Because I can imagine there's a lot of, like, this is like your first Warhammer paint job and it's all just coated in really thick acrylic.
Yeah, I've done plenty of those paint jobs too, and then I guess I like watching a lot of miniature painting tutorials and stuff, even just in the background while I'm painting,
okay.
and I think like after a while it gets like fully drilled into you that you have to wet down your paints a lot. It's like everybody says it. It's the #1 rule. I've definitely found that with my own painting, and especially if you're doing something like a zenithal highlight. The thinner you go, the easier it's going to be to see the highlights that you've kind of marked out from the start. I feel like I'm like the slowest painter on earth potentially. Like I like really take my time with stuff, but
It'll turn out a lot better.
yeah, I kind of like to again, because I'm not really painting to get like an army on the table or anything for a game in particular.
Yeah.
I think it gives me a lot more like freedom just to be like, okay, I'm just gonna really take my time with this, and then like I'll be happier with the result at the end.
What have you been enjoying painting at the moment?
So outside of the Blood Bowl stuff, I was doing some like D&D painting recently, like a lot of the miniatures for. Done a couple of beholders in the past couple of months, and a bunch of like monsters for a few campaigns of like friends.
What should I do with these ball joints in the knee? Should I paint those grey or just...
So I guess what I typically do I'll put on my base colors initially, and then I might do 1 or 2 layers of that, and then I'll go over it with a wash, which will fit in a lot of those areas that are going to be darker and a lot of the recesses.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a cheap way of getting low lights into your models, and then from there I'll start to build up the highlights. So I'm kind of like what I'm doing with mine is I'm pretty much going over everything on that side. I'll try and get it in focus there.
Okay. You've gone a lot quicker than me, that's for sure.
Maybe I'm not that slow then. I don't know. I think it's this brush, to be honest. Like I can swap brushes with you in a second. You can maybe feel the difference because it's really easy to.
I might be
apply.
being too careful with the first layer.
Maybe like.
Do you think I should just go?
You could absolutely go more hand. That looks pretty sick though. How you're like actually leaving those parts out. I'll do that sometimes, and then I do always find it takes a lot longer in the end to finish the paint job because I'm going in and going over the tiny little nooks and crannies. Whereas maybe sometimes it's best if you just want to get something table ready, just go over all of it with you got your zenithal highlight, then maybe you go over with a base coat of the overall color that you're going for, and then you can work back from there. I told you that these paints, like, you don't need to mix up as much as you'd expect, and then I did exactly the opposite, and I was like, I'm gonna put a heap of this on my palette.
Did you put a texture on the ground of this, or was that already like that?
Yeah, so before I did the zenithal highlight, I just used one of the Games Workshop texture paints. I think it was, I don't think it was a Grell and Earth, I think it was, is that the one that you have there? I think it was Technical Astro Granite or something along those lines.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite ones. It always turns out really well.
Yeah, it's good just to add a little bit of character to the bases beforehand. It can just be good for making like mud effects, or you can even put them on the models themselves to give them a little bit more character and make them look a little bit more kind of rusty. I kind of scraped off a little bit of the Astro Granite on their feet to make it look like they've been trudging through the dirt a bit.
Okay.
You can kind of see in like some small areas like around the knees, and that you probably can't see it too much on the phone there. We'll have to zoom in on it later, but yeah, it's something that you can kind of pick up later with your highlights.
I thought this would be so quick to paint all the nooks and crannies, but it actually takes a while to really get your brush in there, I find.
They're quite like detailed models.
They are, I'm surprised.
Yeah. Alright. That's looking pretty close to me. I might go one more layer and then do a wash.
Okay.
And then from there,
A wash of what?
build up the highlights. So the wash I'm thinking is probably going to be this one here, which is Agrax Earthshade from Games Workshop.
What does that do?
It kind of, you can use it to give the models like a bit of a dirty kind of finish. It's like a glossy brown wash.
Okay.
So it'll help fill in the recesses and give us the natural low lights that we want for our models.
So you reckon highlights, like around the edges of each panel, is that how highlighting works?
Yeah, so it's up to you. Like a lot of the time I will do a wash first before I start to do the highlights.
Okay.
But, like my next stage here, I'm gonna go over it with the Agrax Earthshade, is that what I call it? Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, I'm gonna go over it with that, and then I'll let that dry, and then I will do my highlights. Just because after you do the wash, it will inevitably like dull down the paints that you put on already.
Okay. Do you think I should do a wash of anything?
Yeah, so maybe like you could use the same sort of one, this same Agrax Earthshade. I'd probably recommend doing that just to fill in the gaps.
Do you do it over the whole thing?
Yeah, you could also use something like a Nuln oil if you have it. I actually don't have any myself for some reason, but that one is the same sort of thing, but it's black.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people like that sort of thing for machines while they're painting. I'm just considering whether I might paint the gun real quick, a little missile launcher on his shoulder before I put my Agrax Earthshade on there. Then I'll do that, and then we'll start to like build up the highlights on the whole model. One thing I've been considering a little bit recently in painting is how you quite rarely see like proper natural white.
The same with black.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been thinking about with black, because it's quite easy to use black as your shadows, especially when you're using a zenithal highlight. But it actually makes the model look a lot more interesting if you turn your shadows into something more like a purple or a blue. Like I was trying some OSL the other day, which is object source lighting.
Yeah.
And a few of the tutorials I was watching for that, I kind of knew that they would somewhat be saying to do like orange and yellow like transitions, I guess, to give the effect of like flame or a light. But what they were also saying was on the opposite end of the spectrum, instead of just using black as the shadow, if you're using oranges and yellows, or mainly oranges for the flames and for the light, then you could use something more like a blue.
Okay.
Because it's a contrasting color to make it kind of pop.
So what texture is this going to give, do you think? Or like what kind of look?
So that is the one that's gonna fill in those gaps, and it, depending on where you leave the earth shade as well, it can kind of give you like a drippy oil kind of effect as well.
It's interesting that an earth shade would give that kind of effect.
Yeah.
Did it take a bit of experimenting to figure that out?
Yeah, I reckon. Like as soon as I got that one, I was pretty in love with it. It's a really good tool. I really like washes in general. Like I like things that help you kind of skip a few steps without doing the whole job for you. Like they just kind of elevate the model. It's totally fine if you like accidentally overlap on things or whatever. Like I've even just doing the half and half that I'm trying to do here. At each coat that I do, I'm kind of building it up a little bit more and getting it more like closer to how I want it, where it's gonna end up being a definite line down the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect right from the start.
How many washes should I do with this?
I usually just do the one, and then that one can take a little while to dry. The only thing I've left at this point is the little visor that I'm planning on doing at the end, just because that glass effect. Like I'll probably do a little bit of a wash over it right at the end too, but yeah, I'll leave it until last. If you're done with, Have you finished with your earth shade?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I might even steal that shade brush
No
back
worries.
from you then.
Yeah, I think I'll let that dry for a bit.
Sweet. We're getting there, looking
We're
a lot
getting
more.
there. That's after a big wash.
Yeah, big wash. Had a little bath in some Agrax earth shade. So if you wanted to stop, even at this point, like your models are gonna look pretty good. If you're ever in a rush or whatever, just want to get stuff on the table, base coat, wash, and then highlight, you're done. At the moment, I'm just kind of picking off little bits. As you leave it to dry, sometimes the wash can kind of travel down the model a little bit and like pull in the recesses at the base.
Happen, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just making sure that that's not going to happen too much, and yeah, it can just dry, and then we can get back to it and finish off the highlights, and then it's done.